Welcome to You're Making It Worse. I'm Elliot Glazer.
I'm Brent Sullivan.
And I'm H. Alan Scott.
We're here. We're queer.
Meh. Textual healing.
So there's a new documentary directed by Sean Peterson that features interviews with academics, historians, and experts.
Why'd you laugh at Sean Peterson?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think maybe because I was copying and pasting this from a document that I was reading, and I was like, I probably didn't have to include Sean Peterson's name because no one in the world knows Sean Peterson. So why did didn't I just omit that part? But I guess you got to give a creative their due, right?
Yes.
So this new documentary features interviews with academics, historians, and experts on Abe Lincoln's life and explores his relationships with men before he was elected president in 1860.
So steamy.
That's right. So, I mean, Elliot's already groaning, but described as a, quote, sacred figure by both Republicans and Democrats, and by many as the greatest president ever.
The first Republican president.
Right. Yeah. Lincoln's letters and photographs will explore whether the politician was gay or bisexual. This is not the first time, of course, Lincoln's sexuality has been explored, with earlier articles and books exploring his relationships with men, specifically a male roommate with whom he is said to have shared a bed.
In the Lincoln, is that where the Lincoln bedroom is, do we think?
No.
I think this is earlier in his life. I don't think he shared much
earlier in his life. Yes.
Elliot already has his nipple clamps on. He's trying to envision Lincoln in the White House,
getting railed against the wall, bareback style.
Lord, he's groaning. We just muted his mic because he was
Oh,
moaning.
Mr. Lincoln. Oh.
His eyes are rolling back. So while by today's standards, a roommate with whom you share a bed is undeniable code for partner, the trailer points out that this may or may not be proof that the 16th president was queer. The trailer adds, we have this notion that if you have an attraction like that, boom, that's your orientation. Sexuality through the mid-19th century was far more fluid, but for someone who wanted a political career, it was mandatory that you have a wife. So I want to know what you guys think about this, but I'll start off. Or do you want to start?
No, go
Alan,
for
I'm
it.
sure
Go
you
ahead.
have
No, go ahead.
I normally find stuff like this horseshit, and I'll tell you why. I'm not professing to be a professor on sexuality or a professor on just history and shit, but like the idea of sharing a bed 180 years ago, to me, is completely extricated from sexuality. And that you share a bed because beds are fucking expensive. They're made out of hay. You didn't want to weave one or whatever the fuck you did.
This wasn't made out of hay, but
or
yes.
yours was like inundated with bed bugs. Just to me, the notion that like if you quote share a bed doesn't mean that you're like dry humping each other at night. That's my first stance. But yeah, go ahead, guys.
I do this. I am also in the same boat. Just from a historical perspective. Now, anyone who grows up in St. Louis, Missouri, anywhere in the sort of eastern Missouri side, goes to Illinois, goes to Springfield, Illinois all the time, and you learn so much about Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln is a part of your identity in a lot of ways because it's an easy hour trip away. It's like what we always do. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up like as Lincoln being like my first president that I was kind of obsessed with. And the thing that pisses me off about, as I then grew up and became queer and the whole things, I've heard these things over the years, especially in certain circles, and there's this sort of like disassociation with historical fact versus applying modern stuff onto this person. And so Lincoln was poor for most of his life. I mean, he only received any wealth is because he married Mary Todd Lincoln at that point, and she was the wealthy one. And when he was a lawyer during this time in which he slept with this friend of his and then the roommate situation, he was very poor. He was very, very poor, and he was living his life, doing his things. Now, they also didn't have at that time any language for homosexuality. There was no gay. There was no terminology for how that doesn't mean homosexuality didn't exist. Of course it existed, but there was no way of communicating it, particularly for someone like Abraham Lincoln in rural Illinois, who
Right.
had spent some time in Chicago maybe, but that was basically the extent of his big city experiences. And so, sure, did Lincoln ever get a handy? Maybe. But I don't think Lincoln, I think it's wishful thinking that we want to apply this sort of modern sense of homosexuality on someone like Lincoln because he is so huge within history. And then on top of that, it's completely, like I said, disassociated from historical fact. It's like it's wishful thinking, and it pisses me off because then it confuses, no offense, Elliot, but people like Elliot who think that he fucked someone in the Lincoln bedroom. It like they hear this little nugget of information about Lincoln being gay, and they're like, "Well, that's what I'm going to talk about at the bar next."
Right.
And that's just a domino effect of misinformation.
I don't think that.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think because I agree that I'm like, this is it's obviously like an opportunity to have a very sensational discussion, but it's like you said, it's like it's sort of like revisionist history where applying like the standards of today of being like, yes, mama, she served like pig bottom. It's like, no, I mean,
right.
nobody was talking like that or saying those things. And if there was no, like, it wasn't even part of the language. I don't even know how gay guys met at that time. Obviously it had to be so coded under the radar that like, I don't know, the idea of like a poor man in need of a bed feels so, I don't know. It feels not sexual to me, but
I understand urges, but again, I'm not professing to be a historian, but like while I get that we all have urges, and of course I 100% agree that the same percentage of people were gay 180 years ago than as are now because of genetic how it works. That said, like I also know a lot about the 1860s when it comes to sexuality, and it was really fucking repressed. No, it was just really repressed, and so the notion of like being gay and needing an outlet to me is I think
there was no
also
outlet. Yeah, it was just sexual based. There was no like community. There was no outlet for bonding. It was literally like if you were so flamboyant, you went to the theater. And if you weren't flamboyant and you just had the sexual urge, you would find the person to either, I hate to say it, but rape or have a really, really seedy sexual experience with that you'd probably never talk about again. It was so rooted in shame and sexuality that there was no identity. They didn't apply the sexual urge as an identity like we do.
I wonder if there's like in the documentary if they talk about anything beyond this, like romantic letters or something more concrete.
Elliot, would you please take your nipple clamps off and stop trying to get into the nitty-gritty of Abe's sexuality?
Speaking of nipple clamps, so like, okay, so we all agree that Lincoln was not gay. But let's just, for shit's sake, I mean, because I like to think of presidents as particularly attractive. If you saw Lincoln in the corner of the Eagle, would you be like, hey, Mr. Lincoln, or would you not be into him?
No, well, first of all, you guys
I'm not
know
into big bushy beards.
You guys know I don't like tall guys, and Lincoln was like 6'4", so no.
Yeah, I know. I do like tall guys, but I don't necessarily. I would look at Lincoln and I would be like, I want to see what the dick is like.
He's handsome, right?
But I would then be like, that booty is flat.
you know that
butt
Lincoln
is like,
booty is flat.
That butt is like dehydrated, like haven't ate in weeks. Flat.
He ain't doing his squats according to H. Allen Scott. So that was a great end, but I'm going to keep going because there's lots more I want to say.
Okay.
Ulysses S. Grant is actually, I think, an objectively attractive man for 1800 standards.
Oh, I agree with that.
There you go. Better looking than JFK, if you ask me. B. Rutherford B. Hayes is the actual president who, I think he was the one, right? He was the one who never married, and like his niece was like acted as the first lady. That was one where you're like, I can again, I don't want to project modern values on this guy, because he might not have been gay. But I could see that you could make a stronger case that Rutherford B. Hayes was gay because a lifelong bachelor.
He did marry. He had a wife and it died. Yes, but he did have a wife. So that's the gay one.
We hear him
Well,
confirm.
no, who was the one who wasn't married?
I forget.
Never.
But there was. I mean, we've had bachelor presidents too. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt before was
James
was a
Buchanan.
bachelor. Buchanan. Yes, it's Buchanan. It's Buchanan who was the one who was rumored to be gay.
My bad.
But I do think that Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, of all the presidents, like if we're maybe not going on like aesthetics, but if we're going on like pure sexual attraction, I feel like Teddy Roosevelt would be the one that would be the most fun in bed because he was like, you know,
He was very
like-
virile. Yeah.
yeah, he was, and he just kind of like he liked to walk a lot, and you just know that he would last. He'd maintain.
Sure.
And Brent, did you say you think Ulysses S. Grant was hot?
I thought he was good looking. Yeah.
Huh. He doesn't strike me as your type.
He isn't, but for someone from the 1800s, and they all look like trash back then. For someone from the 1800s, he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, there you go.
Not even joking.
We are here today with writer, actor, stand-up comedian, and our mutual friend describes this person, and I'm intentionally not saying their name yet, describes this person as someone who will literally throw himself down a flight of stairs for
Wow.
a joke. So welcome, Peter Kim. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Peter.
Hi. Yes, I do it for laughs and to get rid of babies.
Yeah, which, I mean, at the state of women's healthcare in this country, that's probably
safe
the
choice.
most ideal way at this point, isn't it?
I'm saying there's an option, is what we're
There's
saying.
an option.
Yeah.
There's an option. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing fabulous. This is the last thing I'm going to do, and then I'm off to Italy for 16 days.
Ooh.
Oh, that's so
fun.
exciting.
Yeah, for fun. Yeah, not for work. That'd be fabulous.
Who?
No,
that would be
What
fabulous.
comedian do you know,
No, just for
Elliot,
fun.
that goes to Italy for 16 days for work? Like, name one.
None.
Comedian,
I don't know.
please.
Mateo Lane, maybe. He's shooting
No,
something.
not even him.
He's
He
making
goes for a
pasta.
cosmetic surgery. That's what he would go for.
That's right. The plus.
So, Peter, wait, where are you going in Italy?
So my partner and I are going to Milan, Cinque Terre, Florence, Bologna, Trento, and then back up to Milan. So we're doing like
Thank
a
God you're
circle.
skipping Rome, because that is a shit city.
I
I mean, it's
know.
history's there, but it's pretty bullshit.
Yeah, I did it once and I'm done. I don't need to do
Yeah,
it again.
no one needs
Yeah.
to do that again.
What
Have you
makes it a
traveled?
shit city?
It's just like a bunch of old shit and rude people and not enough gay bars. Like, it's just,
Yeah,
you know, right?
it's
Right,
really
Peter?
aggressive and ugly. And
Rome is ugly.
Yeah. And
I mean,
everyone
yeah,
talked about the food.
it's
and shit.
ruined. If you haven't heard.
Yes. I mean, the
It's
Pope's there, which that could be either a plus or a downside depending upon where you stand. But
I
like,
don't care about the pro.
yeah, no one. It's just one of those cities that is there. But have you traveled with your
It's a
partner
skip
before?
for
Is
me.
this like?
It's a
Is this? Do you travel well together?
We do. This is the first overseas we're doing, so this will test. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be
Yeah,
a stress
16
test for
days
sure.
is a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For him, I'm sure I'm going to be a nightmare, but because I have no patience and I don't have a filter, so like I get cranky because I'm hungry and I just say mean things to him. So I don't know why he's with me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sounds like
What
a
kind of
healthy
traveler are you?
balance.
So I used to be very like every minute planned out, control freak type, and then I met this guy who was more than me, and I had to let go and let God.
Yeah.
So like he's really helping me, you know, with my control issues because he's very controlling, and I'm like, go with God. So, but the way we travel is we try to do one thing a day, and then that's it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's really important to find in your partner or in a partner someone that you can either travel with or that you
Mhm.
can come to an agreement that you're just going to travel separately. You're going to vacate separately, and like,
Yeah.
and that's okay too.
We have like most things in common, so it's nice to travel together. We like the same food, same culture, same whatever, everything. So like our tastes are aligned, so most of the time we're in agreement.
Wow.
I don't know about you guys, but like I we've been dating for 9 years, so like we're very good about like I need a timeout. Like we treat each other like people's kids.
See, that's
You know, like-
wonderful. I think that's such a like the picture perfect idea of like communication is just being able to say you need timeouts from each other.
Mhm.
Seriously, and it's no big deal. Like
Yeah.
I need a timeout. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I've had it up to here with
Yeah.
your face. So I just
Yeah.
need to I need to be away from
When you have a timeout, what do? Do you like leave the apartment? Do you guys have an extra space you can go to?
well, luckily we have an extra space. We have a dog, so like one of us will take the dog out.
Sure.
And we have 2 cars, thank God. So like we both like to drive. I go on drives. Yeah, I just need to like scream it out, you know? Like I don't need you to like watch me do it.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you guys. I haven't cohabitated with a partner in a long time, and I can't really. I mean, maybe it's a part of me that's eccentric or whatever, but like, I can't really imagine doing it again. You know, like unless I
The
were.
one
I mean,
comes along.
no, unless like, you know, I was living out my fantasy and could afford some sort of humongous house or like a big enough space where I could feel that separation, but. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, even Judy Gold, a comedian who we all know, lives in separate apartment in the same building, lives separately from her wife.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And I'm like,
Sounds like
well,
a
it's kind of
dream.
awesome. And yeah, so that's
yeah.
I don't know, anything else.
But
But
also
other
the
than that-
whole point of cohabitating is that you don't spend as much money on rent.
Yeah,
That's
and
literally
also-
the whole
but,
point to
But in
me,
New
you
York,
know?
in New York, she just wants to keep that rent stabilization so that she can like pass
Fair.
that apartment on to her kids or something. Like that's why she's really keeping the apartment. I bet is that she just wants to be able to give her kids a $400 a month apartment.
Oh, her
It's a
kids don't
write-off.
live there.
It's a write-off.
I'm saying to give it to them when she dies.
Oh. God, you're
Pass
like
it
my mom.
on.
You're thinking
Like
of
the new-
people in that the most
I'm
Jewish
just saying.
way.
I'm just saying it's a very New York thing to do to like keep the apartment in the family so the rent stays ridiculously low forever and ever
Don't
and ever.
ever let
Like,
that go.
Don't ever let it go. Wait, Peter, I do want to
No.
know. So, like, you worked in tech for a long time before you started in comedy, right?
7 years.
Wow. And
Oh,
what
wow.
did you do?
I was a data scientist. It's a made up title.
Okay.
I definitely was not a scientist, but I did data modeling and behavioral modeling. So everything that's wrong with the internet now is my fault.
Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
You're welcome.
but dive into that a little bit more. Like, what do you mean? What is the extrapolated result of your work?
Well, you know, when I was there in the like early boom of Yahoo, you guys remember Yahoo, right?
Yeah.
I think it's still around.
Brent still uses it. It's his.
I
It's
actually
his main-
all
Oh.
of my like spam email addresses and like
Yeah.
email addresses I use to communicate with people I'm buying jerk off vids from. Look,
Yes.
they're
Corn
all
emails.
Yahoo.
Corn
Yeah.
emails.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
either Yahoo or Hotmail. That's what
Those
the corn
two.
emails are for.
Those two.
Yeah.
Although there is a mail.com. Did you know that? Just a break.
M-A-I-L-E?
mail.com. No, not LE.
Oh,
And it's just mail.com. You can get one there too. I'm not
Yeah.
saying how I know. Not saying how I know.
Mhm. Sure.
okay. Generic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked there during the first boom, and I was doing work where we were basically modeling millions and millions of users' data and trying to figure out how to predict what they would buy. You know,
Oh,
Oh.
sure.
and that has now led to your data being bought and sold in packets to who knows where it's going. Like we used to be buying and selling data scrubbed out to like data match with Revlon to see like how many people searched on red lipstick this month. You know, like
Yeah,
it used to
yeah,
be
yeah.
like such
Very
a like wow,
rudimentary.
what a cool way to like build a advertising model. You know,
Yeah.
and now it's become like something so dark. But
Yeah.
you know, I knew that's where it was going, so that's why
So-
I pulled out.
When was the transition from like mining people's data to throwing yourself downstairs for jokes? Like what was when did
Not
that
mutually
happen?
exclusive.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yes, you gotta get off somehow.
Yeah.
But I was doing that work, and I moved to San Francisco. I was heavily closeted in New York and evangelical upbringing, so I was like, I need
Oh.
a place to come out. Obviously, San Francisco is like a safe place for an Asian gay, so I went there, and I I realized like I was just like so unhappy with my life, and I came out at a dingy open mic in the Sunset District, and everybody there was like 6 other comics like sitting there with their notebooks, and they just looked at me like, "You're Asian and you're gay. What else do you have?" And like I just felt like liberated. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god. And then everything just kind of fell apart like paradigm wise. And then in 2012 I sold everything except for my books and my clothes, and I moved to Chicago to do the damn thing.
Wow.
Nice.
Wait, so you grew up evangelical in New York?
Yeah, Flushing, Queens.
Oh,
You
Yeah.
grew up evangelical in Queens?
Well, Elliot, I mean,
Yeah.
Korean American.
Almost
I
all
know,
Korean
I
Americans
know,
are.
I
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
know, but still, that's still like.
Wait,
it's-
why? What's Queens? Like more Methodist?
Well,
Or what do you
just-
mean?
No, just because Queens is like, I understand how that could be, but I also think of Queens as like Forest Hills, and like
Yeah.
there is so much diversity. But of course, church and religion play a huge part in it too.
Well, and also the
There's-
immigrant
Yeah.
experience. I mean, are your parents like where do your
Yeah,
parents
It's
fall
the immigrant
within?
stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, they're
like,
first gen. They came here on vacation and they stayed. So they, they stayed in New York illegally and they became citizens. And so when you're first generation, I didn't even know English till I got to school in kindergarten. Like I didn't
Oh, wow.
speak it, although I was born
Yeah.
in New York. So because
Wow.
like no one, it's kind of being in like any type of immigrant community where it's like a microcosm, and you
Yeah.
only work with like Muslim lawyers and Muslim restaurants and blah blah. So like you don't have my mom still doesn't speak Korean, which is absolutely bonkers.
Wow.
And
English.
You mean
I mean,
English?
sorry, English.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is why my Korean is so good. Even though I've never stepped foot on in the motherland, like I speak pretty fluently.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
My
I mean,
mom
where are
actually
your
can
parents
speak
now?
Greek, even though she never lived in Greece.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brent's
Wait,
half
where-
Greek. Just want to throw that out there
Yeah,
because
right.
And
It's
Elliot
like-
is obsessed with it.
Yeah,
He
Oh,
loves
Elliot
it.
thank
loves
you
that.
for clarifying that. I thought you
Yeah.
I thought it was full Greek.
Wait, Peter. Wait, how was your relationship with your parents? Like, since they were evangelical or are evangelical, like how did they take your coming out?
My dad died,
Okay.
and never got to come out to him. But my mom freaked out, and I thought she would die, but she's hanging on.
Oh, that's sweet. That's
So glad she
sweet.
hung out. So, if you don't mind me asking, was it a bummer, like knowing that
Yeah,
your
a
parents have a
huge
very
bummer.
conservative background? Was it a bummer that you were never able to come out to your dad, or do you almost kind of see it as like, hey, serendipitous,
It couldn't have been good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like if you just like put 2 and 2 together, it just wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
It's not like he was ever open to anything else about me. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
there was a pattern. So like I don't think it would have went well anyway. It's still like a lot of my I'm 42 by the way, and I went to a wedding, a
Right.
family wedding, and my aunt came up to me and she was like, she saw my partner there and she was like, "Is that your boyfriend?" And I was like, "Uh-huh. 9 years now." And she goes, "You're really gay."
Oh my
And
god!
I was like, "Uh-huh." And she was like, "We always thought that you would just change your mind."
Oh,
oh
yeah.
my god!
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So is your mom like on board?
My mom's on board, but she's like always like, if there is a loophole, she's willing to take
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I complained
Yeah.
one. That's why like I never complain about my partner, because she will use that as an excuse to be like, women again. You know what I mean?
Oh
like
my god!
Oh, wow.
crazy.
Right.
She's like
Is she-
narcissistic, like only thinks about herself. One time I came in before so do you guys know what the Jeff Awards are?
No.
You
The
shouldn't.
Jeff Awards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
No.
stupidly named. It's
Yeah.
like Chicago Theater Awards. Anyway, so
Oh,
like
no.
it was
Did
big.
Lori
when I was in-
Metcalf win one? I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
She deserves all of it.
She deserves all of them.
All the Jeffs.
yes.
But I
The wall of
I was
all of her Emmys and Jeffs.
But anyway, so like it was before the Jeffs, and I was like nervous about it. I got a haircut, and I walked in, and she was like, "Hey, just wondering, why did you cut it that way?"
Mm.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "It just doesn't look good." And I left. I screamed and cried, and I left, and I went to Target to walk around. And then I called her, and I was like, that hurts my feelings. You know that, right? And that's the first time I've ever said that, because I don't think I understand how to say it in Korean. I don't know if you guys do you know Greek?
Do I speak Korean?
Brent?
No, I don't speak Korean, and I don't know Greek either.
Wait,
Any
what did
Greek?
you say, Peter? What did you say?
No, I was asking if Brent knew Greek.
Oh,
But sometimes in languages, like, it just doesn't like really translate over. And Korean, East Asians writ large, we're not really like an emotionally intelligent group, So like a lot of the a lot of the like old world isn't, it's not one of our love languages to affirm. So like there's not a lot of good language or phrases or idioms around "you hurt my feelings" or like
therapy,
Yeah.
therapeutic talk.
catharsis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm stitching together like phonemes in Korean to be like,
Right.
when you say mouth words, I cry.
Oh my God.
That's
And she's
awesome.
like trying to figure it out, and she's like, "What do you mean? Like, why do you feel like that? Just don't feel bad.
Wow.
Like, I'm trying to help you." And I'm like, "Oh God," So like that's the communication styles. And then of course after coming out, it's just like it's broken, but I don't know if it would be that much better if I was straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
Does she get
not
along
the
with
crux of the issue.
Does she treat your partner like nicely enough?
Yeah. She's great to him in that she never asks about him or talks directly to him.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Which is
Okay.
a good thing, because she would just say something mean.
Great.
So,
Oh
like,
my God.
she's
Wait,
restraining herself.
When did you make the move from Chicago to Los Angeles then?
2017.
Oh, wow. So not that long ago.
Yeah. Well, 7
I mean,
years.
7 years. Yeah.
I guess 7 years. It doesn't feel like that long. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that when we
Especially with
started
the
the podcast?
pandemic and
No.
a couple of union strikes, it feels
Yeah, it does.
cuckoo.
It
It
does.
feels crazy.
Well, you've been busy. Like you got lots of credits. Like you've been busy. And one of them that I'm obsessed with is that you were in an episode, first season of the reboot of Frasier. I do need to.
Yes.
Yeah. What were you worried that I was going to say? Because the face tells me a lot, and I want to know.
A lot of people, when I do like podcasts or something, and they look at IMDb or whatever, they're like, "Oh my God, Curb Your Enthusiasm, how was that?" And I got completely cut out of it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and it
That
was
sounds
the
like an
only
episode
thing.
of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Actually.
No, really.
Yeah. I mean,
I would tell you something, but this is being recorded, so I'll tell you some tea in person.
Okay, cool.
Great. Perfect. We love that. We'll talk after we record. But I need to know, how what was working with Kelsey Grammer like? Did he ask you to register as a Republican?
Yeah,
and,
his Trump flag in his green room.
And did he bring up his brief appearance, yet shockingly pivotal appearance on the first season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? Those are things I want to know.
As Camille's soon-to-be ex.
Yeah.
By the way, I would love to meet Camille Grammer. If you are watching, if you're a fan of this podcast, I would love to meet you. You're fascinating to me.
She listens. Yeah.
The morally
Camille
corrupt
Grammer.
Faye Resnick.
Yes. Camille does make it worse. But working with him was it was beyond. I'm a huge fan of Frasier. Growing up, like it was just like a bunch of queens dragging each other. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly the humor. Like I loved it so much. So to meet him was very cool. He does stand exactly like Sideshow Bob. So The Simpsons nailed that.
Wow.
He stands like
That's
this.
interesting.
How does he stand?
Like his feet,
wow.
his feet like bowed out like that.
Like-
I think it's because he has like huge feet, like clown feet. I did notice they were big.
That
but he's
explains
like
all the wives. That
Mhm.
explains all the wives. Yes. Definitely
He's a big
does.
man. He's like a
Yeah.
theater guy. I don't know. Like he's got. It feels baritone.
He is the gayest straight man. He really
He's
is.
the gayest straight man.
He is.
Gayest straight man.
He is.
I mean,
I love when Peter said they're queens dragging each other, because when I think of Frasier and like him also, but like him and David Hyde
Niles.
Pierce as
Yeah.
Niles, it's like two queens, two like professorial queens dragging each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
being persnickety. It's the best.
Yeah.
But he
And
is
he was
very
very
highly
said there-
straight. Like he's very straight. Like I don't know.
he's
I mean,
very straight.
Camille says he liked things. He liked anal, but like he is very straight. I was in a later season of Housewives. Later
Oh,
She
season.
said it or like hinted
She
at
said
it.
She inferred with a little toy that it was
Ah.
yes,
Cool,
Hey,
cool. Good
you know
for
what?
him.
All men have a prostate.
but no judgment.
Toss salad and scrambled eggs. You know.
That's-
Oh,
Some-
he's
they like
doing
something.
anal on him.
On him.
On him. All
On
right.
on
him.
him.
On
On
him.
him. Yeah.
Camille,
Yeah.
enjoyed anal on me.
But like
I
when,
love that.
when
Oh,
it
he
happened,
loved doing
when
me
she
in
was
the back.
when she
Right,
was
right.
talking, because I mean, Kelsey Grammer is a very hairy man, like a very hairy man.
Beast,
So like when
literally.
she talked about it, I just kept thinking of like, how could she have refined it? You know?
Right. That's a thicket
It's-
of body
it's
hair
a-
down there. Butt hair.
Yeah. Yeah. It must have been
Wow.
an adventure.
Anyway, let's
Yeah,
hope you
he
get
was-
cast on
he
season
was-
2.
Yay.
But yeah, he was what? He was what?
He was great. He was it's his show, so like he ran the whole thing. So
Yeah.
like I felt like being
Yeah.
in scene with him. I'm like, I just have to deliver my line. So like whatever. It was good.
Yeah.
And I love obviously loves like your stand up and like you do stand up,
Thank
you
you.
also do like some sketches. And one of my favorite that I was watching before you came on is it's called POV Thirsty Gaze, where it's like you run into
Uh-huh.
you run into the thirsty gaze while you're cruising, and it's you and Mike. Is your
Mike
is your
Milan,
partner
yeah.
or your
He's
that
my
is
like
your
comedy
partner.
part. No, he's like my comedy
comedy
partner.
partner?
Yes, we do a
Got
lot
it.
of comedy together. Yeah.
It's just
He's
the most
stupidest.
absurd video of the two of you just like at like by a dumpster in an alley, like
Uh-huh.
as these two guys trying to get like trying to hit on
Cruised on?
somebody cruising, and it's just so
Yeah.
it's just batshit. I love how insane it is. But do you two
Thank
vibe
you.
on the same sort of like absurdist gay
Yes. Yeah.
material?
Yes, that's where we meet. That's where we align. It's very much like we finish each other's jokes. We're like always going to the same joke. You know, you have those friends like you both say the line and you're like, you got there
Yeah.
1 second friend. Like we're those
Oh,
friends.
that's-
So like, that's all of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
That's
So-
us. Yeah.
that's me and Mike, and I love creating with him. He's the best. So funny, so talented.
He's great. And there's also a bit you posted at some point about gays dancing, which I apologize for not knowing
Oh, yes.
exactly what it was. But can you talk a little about that? Because that is something that we have talked about as
Oh.
friends for years. The phenomenon of like being expected to dance because you're
Dance.
gay, and you did a whole bit on it that I thought was brilliant.
What that is, it's first of all, it's exhausting. Okay, we need to all gays in the media are dancing too hard, and it's the
Too hard.
hardest moves.
Yes.
Like whatever
Yeah.
happened to just like raving? Like why are we like breaking our knees,
Mhm.
shablamming? Like it's like too much. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Like for me, like I'm just not happy or horny enough to be dancing that much.
Yeah.
It's just not for me.
Yeah. Also, like, I mean, dancing has never. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a bad dancer necessarily, and I can do the
I keep
vibe on
up.
the like the gay dance
Yeah.
floor. Like I keep up and everything, but it's never been sexy. Like I've never been one
Yeah.
where
Oh, yeah.
I've attracted someone
Never.
on a dance floor. Like
Are you
I've
kidding
attracted someone
me?
by like buying them a drink and showing them that I have money. Like that's how
Yeah.
I've attracted.
Okay.
Oh, I've
Like,
lost guys on
yeah.
dance floors without question. I am a
Yeah.
the
Well,
worst dancer.
Brent,
100%.
I mean, that's because since we've known Brent for like almost 12, 13, 14 years now, he has one move, but his dance move is satirical in nature. So why don't you
Yeah,
show us the
funny,
dance move?
right? Yeah.
Well, I do
Yeah.
this, but I do more.
Close
I mean,
your-
I don't
close
do
your eyes,
that
do the
on the
thing. Wait.
dance floor.
Brent is
Do the
lifting
thing
his
with your face.
arms and doing. We'll put this as a clip on Instagram. Yeah.
There you go.
That's
It's a
Brent's
very
dance move.
impassioned, faux
Yeah.
sensual dance.
I
But
close
no.
my eyes because I'm dancing so hard I'm out of breath. Like that's the idea. But I don't do that. Like I actually, when I'm on a dance floor, I don't do that per se. I'm doing
Mhm.
trying to actually dance, and I
Ooh,
think
I
I
wanna
would
see
fit
that.
in. I don't think I would stick out. I had a roommate once who was such a bad dancer you could find him like on the dance floor.
Oh.
Because
Wow.
he like would clear
was
an
out of
area
sync.
and he was way
Wow.
out of sync. It
Yeah.
was
Bye bye.
wild. It
That's
was
usually
wild.
me. That's usually
Yeah,
I'm on the ones
well,
and the
fair
threes.
enough.
I'm,
Thank you,
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm giving corny on the dance floor. It's not.
But I
It's
love
not
that. I
good.
mean, I love that you could point out that it is a wild phenomenon that it's just sort of like expected that like in across decades at this point it's like disco and it's like I don't know if I would have been
Wouldn't it be great if there was a bar, like a gay bar, that had no dance floor, and instead, well, they
Yes.
had a dance floor, but
Oh.
instead it was all just like really comfy couches.
Oh,
You know what
I
I
would
mean?
God,
Like,
yes.
like high chairs and couches, and you would go to the dance floor to sit.
There was
I love that.
well, actually that's called that exists for women, for gay women in the 90s. I guess I'm thinking of like coffee houses because I used to love coffee houses.
Oh.
No, I want it to be a dance floor. Like I want there to be a bar, but then there's a dance floor that it's just like lounges.
What about a lounge? Is that not what a lounge
you
is?
go.
And
It's
does
like-
a lounge, do those
We
exist
don't have
anymore?
lounges
I mean, if you-
anymore.
But yeah, who goes? I mean, name a lounge. I don't know a lounge.
I'm
Where's
just
a
saying
lounge?
there was
Lounge.
one bar in New York called the G Lounge, and I
Oh
went
yeah.
once in
Was
college.
there a dance floor? Because if
and
so,
I
it's not a
don't
lounge.
remember a dance floor. But Brent, do you remember?
No, it did not have a dance floor. Yeah, it was, but it was also there was very, very limited seating. It was just a place where you would go to stand
Oh,
and
no,
try to get
No.
hit on.
No.
Can I ask Peter too? When you like in growing up in Queens, did you were closeted and evangelical? Did you have opportunities to break out of that in the city at all, or were you just too sheltered and like
Never. The
on your
most I broke
homestead?
out was I went
Never.
to McDougal Street. I went to the Comedy Cellar and ordered 2 Diet Cokes and sat in the back quietly.
Oh
Mhm.
wow!
Wow.
You had
That
that
was my
2-drink
reprieve.
minimum.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
God,
Well,
well,
they always
yeah.
they always hated you when you bought when there's a 2-drink minimum and the only thing you fucking buy is a Diet Coke. Like that
yeah, 'cause the
server is
tips are
never coming
shit.
back to you.
Yeah.
Ever.
They-
They know this fucking
Yeah.
14-year-old faggot's not tipping.
Yeah, right.
Peter, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad we got to finally sit and chat.
Me too.
Where can
This
people
is
follow
great.
you online and see your hilarious content?
Yes, I'm all over at Peter KZ. Yeah, follow me on all the socials. This was so fun. Thank you for having me.
Oh, our
And I'm
pleasure.
off to Italia. Ciao,
Have fun.
bellas.
Great trip.
Mambo
Have fun.
Italiano.
Yes.
And another thing.
So, have you guys ever raw dogged on a flight?
Now,
Before
what does
you
that
answer.
mean? Okay.
They call it raw dogging or barebacking. But what it means, at least according to people who are making it a trend on social media, it's a trend that started among men, but it is not the raw dogging or barebacking you might think of, because when it's done in the air on flights, it refers to adopting a sort of monk-like asceticism. Is that the right word?
Aestheticism?
I'm actually not sure, but
Yeah.
but the idea is that you sort of adopt this monk-like state where you have zero distractions. You don't watch a movie, you don't watch TV, you don't listen to music, you don't read a book or a magazine. You literally the only thing you're technically allowed to do in this scenario is to watch the real-time flight tracker, I guess,
Wow.
if that's in front of you. So it's basically been made into a trend among straight guys, and obviously it's sort of magnified since then, and women are doing it now too. But the idea of it is to essentially do nothing. And also they say no food or water. And it's a challenge, I guess, the raw dogging challenge of sorts. And so it's become a thing on social, specifically on TikTok. And some people are looking at it as a sort of like meditative practice where it puts you in touch with yourself in ways that might otherwise be inaccessible, and like you're finding beauty in the mundane. I think it sounds terrible, and I wonder how you guys feel about it.
Yeah, this proves my point that nothing good has ever started with men. Like nothing. Straight men specifically. Like to me, because you guys know I'm an anxious flyer, and so I definitely need. I've come to the point where Adele is the only way I can like take off and land a flight. She's the only thing I listen to. Like if I die, Adele's in my ear. Like that is just what happens. And I hate that I have that association with Adele, but because I love her and I don't want to think of death in Adele, but it is. There is something so enjoyable about downloading the thing that I want to watch on the plane the night before. And you guys know I love the planning of packing. I'm people make fun of me, but I'm making lists a week out, and I'm even
Yeah,
for the
me
shortest
too.
of trips, and I'm planning, and I'm getting things ready, and I enjoy having options to read, and I make sure that I have the latest of the New York Times downloaded, and if I get free Wi-Fi in the air, I'm going to get it up in the air. Like, I'm so prepared for distractions on a plane that the idea of sitting there and just watching the flight tracker seems like you're on the spectrum. It makes, like, I would look at that person and I would just be like, what is actually in the fuck wrong with you?
So it's interesting. As someone who is, joining paying for the internet on a flight is oftentimes very expensive. Not so much anymore, but it used to be cost prohibitive. And so I never got internet. And that's what I loved about flying. It was the one
Yes.
time I had no phone, no internet, and so I could actually get work done. I mean, I would still use my computer, of course, just offline, but I would get work done. I would listen to podcasts. And so I actually don't find this to be wild. I mean, I can't say I've done an entire flight without any stimulus, period, but like I've certainly gotten tired of doing work 3 hours into a 4 hour flight back to Michigan and spent the last hour just literally staring ahead. And I find it, not meditative. I find it boring and sort of unredeeming.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who doesn't spend
But
a
what's
crazy amount of time on my phone.
is the purpose of these men doing this, like,
Meditative?
is it to like calm anxious, like, is it, I don't know,
No.
what's the result of the meditation? Like, what do they get from it?
I don't think it's so much about the result as it is the practice. And so that's why some have asked if it's like a form of self meditation or being like being meditative and like being
Yeah.
in touch with yourself, or is it a form of toxic masculinity, as much as that
It's
term
a
might be
form of toxic
overused,
masculinity.
where
It
it's
is.
like just this sort of competitive tough mudder kind of mentality where it's like, I'm going to do the least and that's going to make me the strongest or something. It's certainly not a passive action. It's meant to be, they're calling it raw dogging. Like, it's like, this is an active inaction, I guess.
Well, that
And
just
see-
shows you how dumb it is that these straight men don't understand that raw dogging is going to make people go LOL. Like, I mean, it's just dumb.
I think I have the other angle is that I think it's not that meditative, it's not that interesting, but because it's social media, everything gets magnified. So I think people are pretending like it's a big deal when in fact it's just not looking at your phone for 4 hours. But TikTok, of course, for views and for everything else, will say, it's transcendent. You see figures, whatever horseshit.
But how do they share if they're okay? So if this is a TikTok trend, but yet they're
They
not
film
meant to
them-
look at their phones, how are they filming themselves raw dogging it on a plane when they're supposed to be
mean,
detaching?
I guess that's the irony of it all. But like, one of the videos is this guy just literally staring ahead, and he wrote POV, you successfully. It's just him not even looking at his phone. He just put it in front of him, I guess, in the seat pocket and filmed, and wrote POV, you successfully bareback another 9-hour flight watching only the airspeed.
Does this could this be okay? Because like, I have to ask, and this is just this is dumb, but like, okay, we know that some straight dudes on social media love to use terminology that is coded queer, like raw dogging, barebacking, etc. Could this just be another way of them using the social media algorithm to get people like us to pay attention to things like this?
Yes, fully. But I also 100%. It all is like, you're not filming this, tagging.
Do they
it,
have
captioning it.
VPL while they're raw dogging it on the plane? Are they wearing gray sweatpants while they're raw dogging it on the plane?
No, but it's, I mean, I'm looking at just another one. A guy wrote, I've been raw dogging flights my whole life. I'm the godfather of raw dogging. Flight tracker, window seat, and a good seatmate is the ultimate trifecta. Stay off Wi-Fi, leave the book, simplify. He wants to give it a new name, like Commando. I think there's a level of tongue in
Commando's actually
cheekness.
better. I still don't get why why you would call it raw dog.
Or
I
barebacking?
I just think it's a very I think it's a very look at me trend, but everything is online. It's all reflective. Everything's meant to be seen in some way or another.
Yeah.
It's not private. But I do think it's like, I do like these sort of weird trends that aren't really trends, but like, you know, it's interesting when like people even are claiming to do it. But like you said, Brent, I don't give it full credence. I'm just like,
Can I share something about a recent flight though? Totally unrelated to this, because I feel like we all acknowledge that straight men need to read a book. But I was able to, because like, okay, you guys know my Ozempic journey now, Manjaro. I was able, because the seats have always been a concern when you're larger on a plane. It's always just the worst experience possible. And I was able to not only pull the strap a lot, I have a picture of it, but also, like, I was completely comfortable and not feeling like I was spilling into the person next to me seat at all.
Great.
I could pull the tray down comfortably, and it's like small victories that I think some people probably take for granted. But when you were not able to have that, and then you are able to have that, it makes flying places more desirable, of course, but also, but more so than that, it opens up the possibility of saying yes to going to see someone, saying instead of avoiding it because you don't want to have the uncomfortable plane experience, or taking the vacation and avoiding that because you don't want to have the uncomfortable plane experience, or those kind of things. And it's so exciting that now I feel comfortable enough to go onto a plane to see some fucking dumb straight dude sitting there looking like he's like lost it, or he's in some sort of weird like horror movie trance, if you will, looking at the flight tracker, and I can just judge him while my seatbelt is firmly pushed all the way to its max.
Yeah,
which I'm really excited
by the way,
about.
you sent us a picture of that, and
I did. Yes, I did.
I believe I hearted it.
Oh well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being a Manjaro ally.
What would your aunt say?
Okay, Brent, what would your Aunt Ramona say about something she heard on today's show?
Here's one thing I do know. Elliot is an expert at raw dogging on flights, and I'm not talking meditation.
I knew when you were formulating this thought that it was going to be on me. My Aunt Joanne would say, my apologies to Peter, but I know a very different Flushing. How about Aunt Anne?
So my Aunt Anne would start by saying a joke about the Mile High Club. She would be like, I would never raw dog, but I've always wanted to join the Mile High Club. And then she would confuse it, not realizing she would say, but I can't run a mile. I can't run a mile. It would be bad.
Oh,
Mile High would sound...
Love Aunt Joanne. Hey,
have you never done anything on a plane, Elliot? Nothing?
No.
You've never had a little
space?
tickle?
No, it seems
well,
so...
I mean, if you're sitting in a seat next to someone you know, and there's a blanket,
it seems
and
like
it's
a
overnight.
very sexless environment to me.
I mean, I think even for Elliot, it does feel sexless. I agree.
Lift the armrest
Even
up.
for Elliot, like I'm...
The armrest.
Here we go. Oh my God. I'm not even sexual.